What's up, card players? Today I'm just going to show you a deck profile deck of gold Spectral Duke. So first, our starter. Ooh, wow, look at that, that is. I'll turn that down. There we go. And that means I need to turn this one down as well. Yeah, okay, don't know why the lights were so heavy on that. That looks so bright. Oh well, I'll fix it on post. Do some color correction with it. So yeah, this is our starter. Pretty basics. Now, why is there only 3? Oh, there it is. 4 of our main grade 3. We need to ride this. If we don't, then we kind of just stuff and we kind of just lose. And you're out of focus, of course. Oh, there we go. So yeah, we need to ride this, and if we don't, we stuff. So the skill is, if we got 4 more damage, we can counterblast, retire 3 of our units, and we'll get an extra drive. But if we don't have 4 more damage, then we just lose 1 drive. It's also attacking for 13k if we have the main grade 2, and against a crit if our opponent is a grade 3 or greater. We are 1 in 3 perseverance. This one is just mainly to counterblast, discard a card, get an extra circle. We want a couple circles. We want to use this every turn we're at a grade 3. So this one's if we get 2 markers. And you get a free card. Now this deck is a counterblast heavy cost. So we want 2 cards that I can't read upside down. Full Dragon. This card is a Soul Blast. So it helps us to control our counterblast, because we just do so much counterblasting that we usually just don't have enough. This is our countercharger. Now this is another card that we need to ride. If we don't ride this card, we can't boss again. So you need to ride this, and then you need to ride this. If you don't ride this on top of this, then you kind of like losing out on the ability and everything else. So this gains an extra 1k if you have the grade 1 in the soul. And if you ride on top of it on this one, on Duke, because since we're not playing DP, that means we can't just ride anything. Then you can check the top 5 cards, and I think you can call up to 2. Yeah, up to 2 cards on the rear guard. And once this is on rear guard and gets retired by your own ability, so by Duke's ability, we can put this in the soul and countercharge. Our soul is pretty big. I usually have a massive soul. But your counterblast is a problem. Now I don't ride this. I try my best not to ride it, and if I do ride it, I don't use its counterblast. Just because it's a counterblast heavy deck, and you have more important things to do counterblast for. So this is just for, where is it? This is just for him. Persevere, just so I can filter out my deck and see more triggers. And plus, he gains an extra 10k if I put a rear guard in the soul, so another card in the soul, and he gains 10k and bounces back to my hand. So as you can tell, this is gains a massive soul, but you don't use it, not really. This is another card that counterblasts. So if you have a certain grade 1, burn a rear, you can draw a card. But it's a counterblast discard card. Check the top 5 or 3, and choose 1 and call it. I think check the top 3. So I like that. I like a lot of cards that checks the top card and check the top 3 and call a card, just because it just reminds me of playing the Musketeers. Here's our main grade 1. If we don't ride this, it doesn't really matter. It's just the grade 2 and grade 3 that matters. But the skill won't go off because this is only on Vanguard. So if you're on Vanguard, you can check the top 7. And if you have Duke or the grade 2, then you can add it to your hand. Only 1 though. It's only on Vanguard. It's not rare as well, like DP or the grade 1 searches. Not grade 1 searches, the grade 3 searches. But if this is on rare and gets retired, then it gains +5 to our Vanguard, which is good because our Vanguard's usually 13 and then it'll be 18. So it hits force numbers, which is great. Now here's our grade 1 that connects with our grade 2. That helps it gains an extra 10k when something's called on the same column as this. But if it doesn't, that's fine. It still gains an extra 5. And it still swings, well, it boosts for either 13 or 18, and that's pretty good. Especially when you have like grade 2s that can swing for 10k. If you have the grade 1 in the soul. So I usually put these together. And it usually becomes 18, 23, or sometimes 33. Because these two doesn't need to be in the same column. You can have this one over here, and it still gains 10. Now for my counter charges, I do not want the grade 1 searches. I never put it off. And I think if I did, I wouldn't even put it in my deck. I wouldn't know what to get out. But this helps me to counter charge. I very rarely need to draw a card just because I deck out usually a lot. Usually on my 3rd grade 3 ride, I usually deck out after my attack just because the 2nd attack usually goes for 3. And I always have 1 draw PG in the deck and I draw out because I pull it off on my drive check. But I won 7 crits, 7 normal crits. Don't need to explain that. 1 front trigger. So I want 1 front trigger because usually when I attack my Duke, I should usually have 2 cards besides my Vanguard that hasn't attacked yet. And pulling a front trigger actually does help and actually has saved me some games. Now, this one's actually an optional. I used to run 4 draws, but the 4 draw PGs, like I said, I keep decking out every time my 3rd grade 3 turn. And just because I always have 1 in deck, no matter how many times I play, I always either deck out or beat them on my 2nd grade 3 turn. So I'm 1 in 4 crits and I have tested it out and it's working alright for now. But I probably might do 1 draw, 3 crits or 2 crits, 2 draws, depending on how well it goes for a while. Plus a lot of people in my community has a lot of cards that does a lot of multi-attacking and they're only spinning around for 40. So since I'm a 13k base, because it's a continuous, 30 of that makes it 43. There's not a lot of decks the community that I'm in, that is 1 for high numbers. Mainly it's just DP, that's really all. But usually with DP, I don't really have a draw setting also. And then 4 heals. Don't need to explain that one. The ones I draw, the ones Excels I use is Excel 2. And I don't really use Excel 1. I really need the draws, and Excel 2 does help me. I tried doing Excel 1 and then having 4 draw PGs, but it just didn't really work, just because I couldn't really pull off a lot of combos. So I found out Excel 2 with crits is actually helping more. Even if your opponent does pull a defensive trigger though, you still can hit, even if you don't pull a trigger, which is actually really good. It's usually when your opponent pulls 2 defensive triggers, that's when you can't hit. That's when you need a trigger. But that's how my that's how I usually run my Duke, just with those cards. Sorry, it's just late and I had a busy day. So yeah, that's how I run my Duke, and depending on what opponent I'm facing and what deck he's using, and how he plays that style, depending on how I play my style. So if I know his deck's wash out, and as soon as he hits grade 3, that's when his hand gets small, I usually say no guard to majority of his attack. Usually have up 4 to 5 damage. And then at my first grade 3, I usually just ride him and then hoping for the best for Persevere, wherever you are. That way I get 2 Excel markers. And then I can use 2 drives and then a 3rd drive because I'm at 4 more damage. But if I know my opponent just swings hard and still have a massive hand, that's when I usually guard very early. And then usually around grade 3, that's when I usually take the damage. So that's how I usually run my Duke. I'll probably show you some gameplays on Saturday, because that's when I'm coming up. The next video won't be any gameplays of this deck, because we already did a video. It's called Random Fight. It's just a format that we made, and I just did some couple code that every time before we draw, when we ride, before a Vanguard attacks and after a Vanguard attacks, it will go off and we have to use whatever it says. So there's no way of getting around it. That should be coming up tomorrow, but if I don't post this, then it'll be ready up. It's called Vanguard Random Fight, and you should check it out. It's a different format that we just made up. Oh, there goes one of my light just falling down. And I forgot what I was saying. Oh well, see ya.